Week one is right around the corner, and we have some burning questions that we need answers to. We clue you in on tonight's edition of the IBT podcast. Coming right at you.
I've been going dummy, out of bounds, putting on a clinic. Stick around, carrots in my hardware. KC, caught him in the crosshair. Look at me, been the guy, call him Mr. MVP. Keep your ass on the bench by my MPC. Earn my stripes like I fixed this league. Your dog's on the turf, my dog's in the street. You can find me somewhere in between. Never a dull moment like a movie scene. About to do the ops like I did this beat. Let them keep talking RG3. Coming to you live. This is the In Between Fantasy Football Podcast.
All right. It is Tuesday, August 27th, 2024, and this is the In Between Fantasy Football Podcast, your place for both a refreshing and feel-good take on fantasy football and NFL gambling. My name is Seth Woolcock, and yes, I've done it. The final road trip of the summer is done. Wedding in Charlotte in the bag. I'm super excited about it. I've now told the friends and the family, hey, I'm going to be signing this waiver. You will not see me for the next 5 months. But tonight, I'm also joined by a boot-scooting, light-ranching son of a bitch, Eric Raise 'em Up Romoff. Eric, how you feeling, man? We're 9 days away from the fantasy football season officially kicking off. Kids back in school, so I'm sure you got a little more free time on your hands.
I think Eric lost his ears, unfortunately.
Eric, you got a copy? All right, we're losing Eric right off the rip. Great start, strong start
Right off the
show.
rip, love it.
Gotta love live production here. Also joined by our entertainment betting sharp and Florida State apologist, Boston's boy, Steve Lawson. Steve, how we doing here, man? 9 days away from fantasy football officially kicking off.
You know what? It's always great when fantasy football is on the horizon. It means that the long wait is officially over. While last weekend didn't go great for my Seminoles, it marked the end of footballless weekends. And I mean, how can you even be upset? You can't, because it's the best time of year. It's basically Christmas every weekend.
I absolutely agree with you, man. I was busy. I was traveling last weekend, but at the same time, whether it was at the weddings, taking a sneak peek at breakfast earlier in the day, I was making sure I had some college football running. Week 0 was electric. Not so good for the betting cards, but still fun either way. Not if you're a Seminole fan like Steve as well. But either way, super excited to welcome back the NFL here in a couple days as well. Eric, we got you back. How are you feeling, man? Kids back in school. Football 9 days away. Steve and I, we took our L's, each of us, in week 0 of college football, but we're ready to fire back as the NFL gets ready to kick off.
Man, you're giving me a real impossible choice here. I have to choose between which I am more excited, the upcoming NFL season or my kids going back to school. Oh, God. It's the NFL season. But, man, for you non-parents out there, the joy and relief of sending those little rascals off to school for 8, 9, 15 hours a day. It's just a thing of
15.
I mean, who's counting?
Eric's just like, I'll pick you up when I do.
Yeah. See you later, kid.
After school programs run into 9 p.m. in Eric's household for sure. That's how he makes this podcast every single week. Tonight on the program, guys, we got our 10 burning questions that we hope week 1 will answer. We're going to do a little off the top. That's our cut one game as well. Hosting that segment will be our soon-to-be birthday boy, behind-the-scenes guy, adopted Yinzer IUP alumnus as well, Kyle Scott. Kyle, how you doing here, man? Are you like me, locking down for the next few weeks?
Oh, hell yeah, brother. I will be sat in front of that television, 3 days a week? Thursday,
4.
Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday when I'm talking to you boys.
Absolutely. I don't know about you, but I got invited to the Pentennial celebration. That's our college newspaper that's turning 100 years old here. It's September 15th, week 2 of the season. I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it, Kyle, and I'm the biggest mark for that newspaper.
You're going to be like the kid in church with the little portable TV and the headphone in one ear if you go. You're going to be checking your phone the whole time.
Yeah, that's why I just might have to sit this one out. I'm sorry, you had all year to plan this. We didn't have to do this September 15th. You had a whole off season. Love the newspaper, love the Penn family, but we got football to celebrate here in just a couple of weeks. Shout out to the IBT family as well. We're celebrating hitting 1.2K subscribers here. Want to thank you for that. Want to thank you for the ability to talk on YouTube for a living right now. Fucking stupid, fucking crazy, but we appreciate every single second of it, every single one of you as well. Albert in the chat. Good evening, IBT. Good evening to you, Albert. We appreciate tuning in as always. Mr. Scampers saying, "What's up, IBT? What's up, Scampers? Good to see ya." Heartbreak for UNR. Yeah, dude, it was a tough one. It was a tough one. Absolutely. Also, I want to thank our title sponsor for this week's program as well. They did a great job helping us out with Draft Night Out over the offseason and do a great job powering everyone's fantasy football league, taking it to the max. And that's Trophy Smack, the premier place. If you want to get any type of fantasy football swag for your winners, swag for your losers. I saw they had wrestling singlets on their website, Eric. If you lose a league, you can actually get a wrestling singlet that if you stuff your loser in at next year's draft. Are you down for that? Is that something, Steve? I know you're into the WWE too. Are you down for a little wrestling singlet?
I don't know if anyone wants to see me in a wrestling singlet, but you know what? Yeah, like fuck it. That'd be funny. That sounds like fun to me. I'm always down for a good. I'm always trying to pitch the tattoo punishments to my league mates.
Oh, come on. Eric, singlet, tattoo, where do you stand on the two? Which would you rather? I know you have quite a few tats yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I have plenty of tattoos, and I am frequently rocking the singlet. So none of these are punishes for me. This is just a regular type of weekend. You know what I'm saying?
That's a Wednesday for Eric.
Eric, you are close to Mexico, so I don't know what you do on the weekends down there. Might get involved down there with some Mexican wrestling. But either way, shout out to Trophy Smack. Here's a little bit more about them as well.
This is what a winner looks like, buddy. Countless hours of studying the game, watching the game, and honoring the game. Only one man can come out on top. Imagine having last year's fantasy team immortalized. Imagine walking into this year's draft party with this hog of a trophy. Trophy Smack changed the fantasy football awards game. However you want, the trophy is how you'll get the trophy. That includes free engravings for all past and future winners. They also have a sweet draft kit that delivers an epic in-person draft experience. Patrick Mahomes, Christian McCaffrey, Jamar Chase. Ever heard of them? Well, they're all in the kit. Shop Trophy Smack today and get your league something legendary to compete over.
Trophy Smack. We appreciate them. And let's go ahead. Let's jump into things here with a little front and center.
Sometimes taking that first step out the door is the hardest thing to do. Give it a chance, you'll be begging for more. Save the spot just for you. We're all somewhere in between. How about you come to the place we can have some fun? Ain't gotta worry about knowing not what it means. Come and give me another, cause the night is young. At least I so thought.
This just in. Breaking news. Front and center.
All right, front and center this week, we're talking about our 10 burning questions that week one we are hoping, we are praying can give us some answers to, because the NFL offseason is always crazy. It always brings up these new scenarios, and we want answers, and we want them now, and we want them soon. So, Eric, I turn the table to you, my friend. What is your number one question that you want answered here in week number one in just about 9 or 10 days, my friend?
Yeah, so I'll play the homer card right off the rip. It's been an ongoing question for NFL fans and fantasy players alike. That is, what will the Texans do with their dancing plethora of wide receiver options that they will have CJ Stroud distributing the ball to, right? Obviously, Stephon Diggs comes in by way of trade from the Buffalo Bills, and Nico Collins and Tank Dell are both coming in after explosive breakout campaigns. So much speculation has been circulating as to who will be the primary, or if it'll be an even split, or if someone will be left out in the cold. All of these questions will be answered soon enough. We will see very, very quickly how the Texans offense deploys these players. But more specifically, what I'm watching for therein is their actual snap count, the amount of time that they're on the field.
Sure.
A 1 week sample might not dictate the preferred fantasy piece, right? But we should be able to really get some good data points around who's on the field most frequently, who's staying out there when it's two wide receiver sets, as opposed to who's coming in when it's three, who's lining up in the slot as opposed to the X, right? There's a lot of different data points that we can look to gather and glean the way that they're going to use these three awesome weapons.
I'm excited. I have no fucking clue, to be honest. Like, logic would tell you that Tank Dell is going to see a ton of slot snaps, but I'm not sure if that's the case. I'm not sure if that's the case because Stephon
that was my logic as well, right?
Yes.
Like I thought we were going to see his role be the most stable, but over the course of the preseason, which is a tiny sample size, he was coming off the field in two receiver sets, right? So
yeah.
I mean, it's anyone's guess. My guess is Nico Collins stays out there the whole time, but we will find out in a week and a half, right?
I'm excited for it. Steve, I want to turn to your first burning question. What's getting under the skin up there of the great folks of Boston? I know it's pretty easy to get under the skin of the folks up in Boston.
Yeah, we're a temperamental bunch up here. You know what? The one that's getting under my skin is I need to know who the fuck is going to be the starting running back in Cincinnati. I mean, I have no idea. This has been the closest. I mean, breaking into the Oval Office would be easier and getting nuclear codes than apparently finding out who the fuck's going to run the ball. It's just absolutely insane that I still don't know. We still don't know. Is it Zach Moss? Is it Chase Brown? Is it neither of them? Is a angel going to come down from the heavens and be like Diontae Foreman just got released. If he gets picked up by the Bengals tomorrow, I think he's their best runner on the roster. I don't know what's happening with Cincinnati, and that stresses me out.
Yeah, because it is such a high-powered offense. You want to be invested in their backfield. And I've been taking the later guy all offseason. I hate it for the Zach Moss stands out there. If you've invested in him, I apologize. I'm in the Chase Brown camp. I've been that way since his day back in Champaign, Illinois, when he was running all over that big fucking 10. So, yeah, I'm hoping it's Chase Brown, but I'm kind of like you. I don't have a clear inkling, and we haven't gotten that so far, to my knowledge, out of Cincinnati, Eric.
Yeah, we haven't, right? I think it's pretty fair to project this as a near even split at the start of the season, maybe a slight lean towards Zach Moss getting a bit
Agreed.
more work, right? Specifically, if you're looking at carries, if you want to talk about opportunity, probably even closer to 50-50. I'm a bit closer to your inclination here, right? I think over the course of the first quarter, third of the season, we will see that split tick up in Chase Brown's favor ever so slightly, but I don't think it's going to be like a workhorse situation, right? There's not going to be a point where either of these guys gets more than 58-60% of the opportunities, right?
Sure.
They're both going to have pretty sizable roles for this offense.
Yeah, I'm excited for it, man. Potentially maybe a value for one of them, maybe both of them in drafts, and excited to see it play out here in just a couple of weeks. My number one burning question that I just need answered because I'm invested everywhere. Will the 49ers pay and play Brandon Aiyuk like a number one wide receiver? It feels like every damn team out there right now thinks this guy's a wide receiver one, boys. Like, everyone's willing to give up money. Everyone's willing to give up draft capital. Yet Brandon Aiyuk's never seen over 105 targets. A 25% target share was him last season, 18th best in the league. Like, that's fine. That'll do fine for fantasy, but I mean, he's a guy that people are treating like he should be top 12 in target share, I would imagine. And I think everyone's also kind of worried about the efficiency coming down, myself included. And that's one of the risks I think you're taking on when you take on Brandon Aiyuk, because those metrics are outstanding. But I think the thing with the efficiency is maybe that can come down and the volume could go up, because I'd like to see the 49ers be better than the last place team in passing attempts per game. They only have 29 attempts per game. That's tied with Baltimore, Tennessee, dead stinking last. I think it's now Brock Purdy's third year. They're playing a little bit tougher of a schedule. Going to have to battle back and forth here. They're playing the Jets in week 1. I think we're going to know right off the bat, are the 49ers going to counter the Jets' strong front by airing it out a little bit? We know we have Sauce Gardner out there, number one shutdown corner in the league as well. So I'm excited. Will they deploy Brandon Aiyuk, assuming he's out there, in a dominant wide receiver X type position, or will it be, hey, we're not going to lean on him here early in week 1, and then maybe that spells trouble? But if not, Eric, if they do rely on him in week 1, I think maybe he's one of the best draft day values out there currently.
Yeah, not to be boring to the IBT faithful, but I've been out here banging the drum all off season long. Anytime that there's a
Yep.
contract dispute, I'm out here buying these dips, right?
Oh yeah.
So far, CeeDee Lamb, Jamar Chase, right? These are generally breaking in the way that we've seen them
Rasheed
historically
Rice.
play out, and we've got some nice value on our hands because of it. And Brandon Aiyuk is very much so in that camp, right? If he's out there, which is very much so my expectation. I don't have any insider knowledge to back that up, but I do believe that he'll be out there. And if he's out there, I think he's going to be used in a pretty typical Brandon Aiyuk type of way, right? Like, I'm not going to kill you with volume as you detailed in your analysis, but a guy that they're going to go to in these high leverage situations. He will have a very tough matchup with Sauce Gardner, right? So maybe not someone to prioritize in terms of DFS matchups in week number 1, but
Yeah.
I do expect them to use Brandon Aiyuk in a pretty typical way.
I hope they don't run from Sauce. That's my hope, because I think if so, Steve, we could look at a very, very good draft day value for Brandon Aiyuk. And I don't know. I just feel like everything's kind of coming to a head here, because he should have been signed by now and he hasn't. But they got to get that deal done. They got to get Big Trent back out there as well. We're getting down to business here in San Fran, Steve.
I think things are going to go really weird in San Francisco really quickly if money doesn't start getting chucked around soon. Do I think Brandon Aiyuk should be a top 5 paid wide receiver in the league? No, I don't. He seems to think he should be. And he's awfully picky about where he wants to go and make that money. That's the crazy thing to me too, is that he's telling teams flat out, like, I will not sign with you after this. Like, you'll give up the first round pick you need to, and I'm going to walk. Like, because I know the Patriots tried to trade for him and had a deal essentially done, and then he basically like nixed it.
He could have been your neighbor.
He could have been, and I would have happily taken in his trash cans if he needed to. You know what I mean? Like,
Absolutely.
Not that I'm that diehard of a Patriots fan, but nonetheless, you know what I mean? Like, Brandon Aiyuk has certainly bought into the Brandon Aiyuk hype. I don't think he's not talented. I just don't think he's what everyone wants him to be. He's in the easiest system to succeed in the NFL. And it's plug and play. But when it comes to a Kyle Shanahan system, going back to the target share, you're just not going to see it be very high. Even Julio Jones did not get, like, any other team would have peppered Julio Jones with 20 targets a game. And he didn't get that. It's just not Kyle Shanahan's way.
Yeah, but maybe the tides turn. That's all I'm saying, because George Kittle's
Christian McCaffrey there.
George Kittle's on the wrong side of 30. Christian McCaffrey's getting up there in age. He's 28. Debo's 28. Like, Ayuk's the guy to shoulder the load here. We'll see what happens here on Monday Night Football against New York Jets. Eric, your fourth overall burning question. Your next burning question, my friend.
Yeah, I'm going to head to the trenches for this question. The Miami Dolphins, one of the more electric offenses in the NFL last year, at least until it got a little bit cold outside. They had some pretty big names turn over in with regard to their interior offensive line. Connor Williams, PFF's number 2 rated center, as well as Robert Hunt, PFF's number 6 rated guard, both out the door by way of free agency. And I think this is a storyline to watch, right? Like, the Dolphins, for as much as they're thought of as this high flying offense, they do a lot of their work on the ground. So, some of their slighter of frame running backs might have a little bit less room to work between those tackles, but also Tua tags himself, right? Number 9 in pass attempts last year. He really took a pretty significant step forward in terms of his completion percentage on the whole. But if you look at that, he had a 72% completion percentage when he had a clean pocket. That was number 4 in the league last year. If you look at the throws where he was under pressure, it drops all the way to 56%, about league average, right? So a guy that, if he's getting that pressure in his face, we could be looking at an entirely different story for this Dolphins offense.
I hope not, because Dolphins fever is just ravaging fantasy drafts right now. I feel like all of a sudden Jalen Waddle's ADP is going up. Tyreek Hill I've seen go as early as number 1 overall in some recent drafts as well. People are kind of getting wary about some of those other top players, whether it's the injury to CMC, the contract disputes with Chase and CD. So I hope that's not the case. But and also for the run game, as you said, like Achane, his ADP still kind of in that late second round, early third round right now, if you want to pay up for him. And it's hard not to, because of the explosivity. And So yeah, a lot of questions there, I think, around Miami here. Steve, I want to go to you, and I think you're going to take us up north with your next burning question, my friend.
Yeah, my burning question, and I talk about this guy a lot, and I've kind of planted my flag with Keon Coleman, but the question really is, can he and Dalton Kincaid coexist in Buffalo? And honestly, I think they can. I genuinely believe that. I think James Cook, Dalton Kincaid, and Keon Coleman are the trio you want in Buffalo. I think that's really going to be where most of the passes wind up. And I think that's great. I think they have a really good thing going where your running back, your tight end, and then your big receiver are kind of what you build your offense around. And with Kincaid being such a move tight end, and that's like the new thing, right? Like that's where the NFL is going. We've lost that inline blocking tight end a bit. Jimmy Graham really changed the game, right? And now we have Dalton Kincaid, who's very Jimmy Graham-esque. And I can't wait to watch these guys kind of move around the field with each other, because Keon Coleman, a lot of people don't know, played the slot quite a bit for Florida State last year,
Right.
and did so quite effectively. So he's not just a big guy. He's a big guy who has surprising quickness in the open field. And he was our punt returner for Florida State. He was like second in the nation or something in punt return yards. The guy's shifty. So for a big body, he is going to put up some good yards and a lot more rack than I think people expect.
And that week 1 showdown, it is against the Arizona Cardinals. And I haven't looked at the totals for that game, but I'm sure we're pushing one of the higher on that week 1 slate as well. So I think we'll be able to tell pretty early on. Eric, you're kind of the cornerback guy. What does that CB room look like over there for Arizona? Is that something that maybe we can get some early action from Kincaid and Coleman, you think, early from Josh Allen and the boys?
Yeah, I mean it's hard to say without seeing these guys on tape quite yet, right? Historically, the Arizona secondary has been one to target for the last handful of years. They've got some new faces back there, right? Bad players tend to not stick around on rosters all that often, so a bit of an open question mark. They did bring in Sean Murphy-Bunting, which, if you're bringing in Sean Murphy-Bunting, that tells you all you really need to know, right? He's kind of league average on a good day. So
he had a run there.
Paper,
he had a run there.
He definitely had a run. He was good for a while.
Games, right? But I mean, at this point, if that's the headliner of your defensive secondary, you're probably going to be a below average unit. So that'd be my expectation. I would say that for the Buffalo receivers in general, it's probably a neutral to a slight upgrade at matchup.
Okay.
He's an interesting cornerback. I feel like if you had a bunch of Sean Murphy-Buntings, you're doing really well. But like, you don't want just like him to be your best guy. You know what I mean? Exactly. You don't want Sean Murphy-Bunting to be your best, but if you had all Sean Murphy-Buntings, you're like, yeah, we're good. We're good.
Bunch of Sean Murphy-Buttons and then like one stud. You know what I mean? He can kind of play that 2, 3, 4, 5 role.
Simmons.
Like
over the top.
Looking here at the chat, looks like we got Didi hanging out with us. I think Didi's going to be my partner with Pros with Joe's, Eric. Appreciate Didi's donation, very kind donation over there to the 826 National, helping those youth writers. Thank you, Didi. Very excited to play with her. Eric, I think we're drafting Friday? Like it's here. I'm ready.
Around the corner. Yeah, we're out here pairing off Pro and Joe as we speak. If you donated, make sure you're checking your emails. That's how we're reaching out to people to let them know that they have won. So chasing some people down. I'm pretty sure we'll be able to get everyone seated. If we need an alternate, we're going to draw alternates from donors to our in-season fundraiser. So if you go to proswithjoes.com and get registered, that will link you to our in-season fundraiser. In the event we need an alternate, that's where we're going. So if you want to get in the mix, if you feel like doing a little bit more good on a Tuesday night, that's the place to do it.
All right. Love to hear it, man. We love all the good stuff you're doing over there with Pros with Joes. Thank you for that, Didi. Thank you for the $50 super chat as well. Angie hanging out with us. Got to meet Angie in person out in Canton a couple weeks ago. So saying good evening, fellas. Good evening to you, Angie. Hope you and your family are having a great August evening here, as I'm sure school has started up for you as well. Mr. Scampers saying hello to everyone. Very welcoming. We appreciate that, Mr. Scampers, as always. I think Scampers would be a great bouncer at a future draft night out event. I think not necessarily kick people out, but bring people in, if that makes sense. He's a very welcoming person. So maybe we'll have to hook Mr. Scampers up with
a classic bouncer's duty.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. There you go. There you go. Hey, people want me to come in. I've never been thrown out of a bar, so I've been doing something right. Have you boys been thrown out of a bar yet?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
100%.
Oh,
I've been thrown out of a bar and banned for life.
did you deserve it?
No, I don't think so. Well, kind of.
Well, okay, okay. Even though you said kinda, Eric, what about you? Do you deserve the little kick in the butt? Get going here.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I'll be the first to admit that I can get a little bit out of line, right? So whenever that time may come, I'm more than happy to eat those L's and absorb the consequences.
I
So
would like to say I
haven't.
was sober when I got kicked out.
Oh,
Oh, all
that's an
right.
interesting
Steve was doing
combination.
something shady. You're slinging
There's
something in the
there's something to
bathroom or
this
something.
story
I got
here.
into a fight.
I don't
I
know
got
if
into a
it's
fight.
ready
That's
for
Oh,
it.
air,
okay.
but I'm
The long and
curious
short of it
now.
is I got into a fight.
All right. If you get thrown out for scrapping, I think that's totally Eric, you were too blitzed, I imagine.
No, it was specifically for scrapping. I can
Scrapping
I
as
can
well.
hold my
Okay.
liquor. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All
I
right.
just I had to show that the North was down in Tallahassee. The North had to show up again, beat the shit out of the South. You know what's up? Like we were
Oh
there.
man.
There you go.
Mine was more specific. My buddy was getting completely rolled, and I just had to
Oh
had to kind of
no.
I had to swing him out of that situation.
I love it. I love it a lot. If I ever get in a bar fight, I want you two gentlemen on my side.
Let's go.
A guy from Boston and a cowboy from Texas. That's all I need there, and I think I'll be
The
quite all
fucking
right.
accents that'd be going on in that with like Eric and I rolling in.
Eric doesn't have an accent actually. I've tried to.
Does it come out
Muted.
when you drink? Does it come out when you like
No, because
get
he drinks
saucy?
$25 tequila, so he never
That's
gets
all the
drunk.
more reason for accents to come out. What are you talking about?
That's because you don't get
He's
drunk. 'Cause
firing off my grito.
it costs him $150 to get a buzz, to get a little jag going. Eric's already deep into a Benjamin.
Oh
Right.
man.
It's 2024. Try going to the bar and not dropping a bill. Easy.
Oh yeah.
That's
Oh,
why
yeah.
I don't drink, man. It's too expensive to get that shit.
Hey, when you drink Bush Light, bro, you're always saving a little.
Seth, how have you
bang
not been in
for
a
your
bar
buck.
fight if you're just tanking back Bush Lights? Like that shit is just fight like rumble juice.
Because I'm a
Right.
kind fella. I'm a kind fella. That's for sure.
It's that
Move it.
Midwest like
mo-
politeness.
Moving on here, burning question number 6. How much work will Blake Corum take in this Rams backfield? As soon as the Rams drafted Blake Corum on day 2 of the draft, I remember right where I was. Funny enough, actually plowing some Bush Light and pizza at the Dewey Beach Bar with Elliot, my co-host over on the NASCAR program. So I remember right where I was, and at that moment, I hit the eject button on Kyren Williams. I was like, yeah, this guy is legit. Looking at Blake Corum, 500 touches the past 2 years at Michigan, scored over 27 touchdowns a season ago. Now Kyren Williams, who's been hurt most of the offseason as well, and his career, let's not forget it, lost the whole first season of his career to injury, is now listed as a starting punt returner, boys. Like, this is what we were saying with Antonio Gibson a couple years ago, and not that like it's to that level. But I think this signals to me that with Kyren Williams being the starting punt returner, that Blake Corum is at least going to see some type of legit role in this backfield. He won't be the starter, but I think he sees 10 to 12 touches right away here. So especially in the red zone where Blake Corum does very well. So I'm excited about it. The Rams play the best team in the league as far as a Thunder and Lightning backfield goes in week 1, Detroit Lions. So I think they'll say, hey, let's match your fire with a little bit of lightning here and get Blake Corum and Kyren Williams going. Are you guys concerned? Are you hitting the eject button on Kyren like I am and praying that your 9th, 10th round Blake Corum exposures come through?
I'm not terribly concerned about Blake Corum. Actually, I'm not really concerned about either of them. I think they're going to do fine. I think Kyren, he was so touchdown dependent last year that I guess you can look at this as a problem. But honestly, I never found him to be. I thought he was more of a flash in the pan. It's the same reason we're not drafting Raheem Mostert this year. I don't think he's that good. As far as the punt returning thing, though, goes, Cooper Kupp also returned punts, and I think he wound up having his best season of all time. So, like, I'm not terribly worried about that. Sean McVay really seems to be the kind of guy that's like, I want my best players to have the ball in their hands as much as possible. But Kyren Williams is just, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know how to say this in a nice way and not come across as just like a huge fucking downer. But, like, that man kind of like fell into a good fantasy season for all intents and purposes.
Yeah, I mean, definitely deserves all the praise and all the credit that he got. He performed very well in that situation, but the opportunity was golden as well at the same time. Eric, how do you hope this shakes out? How do you see it shaking out here as early as week 1 here in just about 9 or 10 days?
Yeah, this is going to be a super lame answer, but wait and see, right? All of this is reporting
Cheater.
and speculation, right? So it's hard to say
He's listed on the
anything.
depth chart. Punt returner 1,
Yeah, I
Kyren
mean,
Williams.
how many times have we seen coaches mess around with the depth chart, right? So like, is it a good sign for him? Probably not, right? Like, I definitely think it's fair to
I don't want my
cool on
second
your
round pick
position on him.
as a punt returner. That's for damn sure.
Unless you're in
So
Scott Fishbowl.
specifically that designation, I don't think it's as heavy as it would be in years past, right? Like with the new
Or a kick
kickoff
returner, I
rules,
guess, too.
I
Yeah.
I think I think we're gonna see teams put more of their athletic top skill set players
Sure.
out there. So it's not like he's being relegated to special teams, at least in the way that we would react to that in seasons past, right?
If
Is it
Ron
great?
Rivera did it,
Probably not.
Rivera did it, you're worried because
Oh
he's
yeah,
terrible.
for sure. I think, look, I've said this for years now. Happiness is a function of expectations, right? To your point, when Blake Corum was drafted, if your expectation that Kyren Williams was still going to have an 80% opportunity share stranglehold in this backfield, you were setting yourself up to be disappointed when this day inevitably came, right? The Rams have been
It's come.
incredibly clear. They went out and they acquired Blake Corum because he has a very similar and complementary skill set to that of Kyren Williams. And they brought him in because they wanted to keep Kyren Williams fresh, right? Maybe with the injuries, now it became more of an open competition and we'll see closer to an even split, right? Or maybe this was their plan all along. They were going to give him, every other series and let Kyren Williams keep his legs under him, right? So if that was your expectation, as it was largely for me throughout the offseason, really nothing's changed, right? If you were thinking that he maybe should have been a first rounder and you pushed all your chips in the middle with him, you're probably having a bit of a bumpy news cycle today.
Yeah, my pre NFL draft best ball teams. I had a lot of Kyren in the first and second. Don't feel great about it now looking back. Amister, I see you have a question about your team. We got a couple more burning questions we're going to get to, and then we can pull your question up. I'd love to check out your team, see how you did here in this year's draft. I was talking to Eric about it. I think both on and off air last week. Might have had a little too much booze this year in my home draft. Not gonna lie, like not in the draft, but prior to the draft.
Did you fight someone?
No, I didn't. But I shot terribly in golf. But yeah, hey,
that's nothing new.
The boys
does that sober.
Yeah, the boys were buzzing. Eric, back to you with burning question number 7 overall, the third of Mr. Romoff's concern here.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite angles in terms of selecting defenses in DFS. It's one of my favorite betting angles out there. There is a long and stable history of rookie quarterbacks or first-time quarterbacks throwing an interception in their NFL debut, dating back to the year of our Lord 2020. In fact, 17 of the last 20 quarterbacks making their NFL debut have thrown an interception in that game.
Wow.
So if you're looking for a cheap defense, go to the defenses that are facing rookie quarterbacks. If you're looking to fly out to Las Vegas like I am and place a bunch of money on parlays and prop bets, go and put some money down on all of the rookie quarterbacks throwing interceptions. It is incredibly rare that they get through that first game unscathed, unless, of course, they are my guy, Houston's own CJ Stroud, who was one of the few people in that list in the last 5 years. But 17 out of the last 20, dating back to 2020, when they made their NFL debut, they threw it to the wrong uni.
Wow. Okay. All right. I keep that in mind when we're placing some prop markets bets next week, and also in the DFS realm as well. Yeah, I knew it was a lot. I didn't know 17 of the 20. Eric, do you know off the top of your dome? I don't want to put you back on the spot, but do you know who the other two were? Because Stroud was the one I knew off the top of my head.
I don't have them off top. No, heading into last year, it was 15 of 18. And then Bryce Young and Anthony Richardson joined the club while CJ Stroud did not.
Okay. All right. I like to hear that a lot. Steve, I want to move to you, man. Number 8 burning question for us over here at IBT. What do you got?
Yeah, and it's one of my favorite players in the NFL, and it's Diontae Johnson in for another monster target share down there in Carolina. And honestly, all signs point to like this man is going to be a fantasy league winner down in Carolina. Like, listen, this is a new regime down there, and it looks good. I hate to say it, but it's looking promising. And Adam Thielen was a fantasy asset last year, and he was like running with cement shoes on. So Diontae Johnson's young, he's fast. He's a deep threat that people don't realize. Like, remember, he played with the corpse of Ben Roethlisberger for like 2 years.
Easy now.
And was like, he was
that's the best
good.
Quarterback he's ever played with, too.
Yeah, it was. Exactly. But like that, even that was not even league average toward the end. And Diontae was a monster. This man knows how to get open. He gets open, I think, at like the highest rate in the NFL. He's considered open. Like, this dude is a wide receiver one all day long that has had some of the worst luck in terms of his quarterbacks for a star receiver I've ever seen. I think while Bryce Young may not be my favorite player, I think Dave Canales is an incredible offensive mind and is going to find so many ways to get him the ball. I cannot wait to get him in all my fantasy drafts. I have him in almost every single one.
That's crazy. I don't have a ton of Johnson exposure here in the latter part of the offseason. Again, in some of those early best balls, I was taking him, and I've never heard so much love for Diontae Johnson. I won't know if I would necessarily consider him a star, but at one point we were considering him just a couple of years ago. That's kind of the trajectory he was on, and then it felt like everything kind of just slowly fell by the wayside. Matt Canada, a couple years as your OC, is going to do that to you. Randy Fitchener's not, a guy you're going to write home about either, calling plays for you. So yeah, I don't hate the call. To me, it's how much can we trust Bryce Young, but I do think he'll be the de facto number one. Eric, any insight from you here on this Panthers wide receiver room? Earlier today, we saw Terrace Marshall, former day 2 pick. He hit the road. He was cut earlier by the team. Xavier Legette had a bunch of hype earlier in the offseason, kind of cooling down a little bit. And then, as Steve noted, Adam Thielen's still there running with cement shoes.
Yeah, I was going to mention the Terrace Marshall release player that I have all over so many of my taxi squads. Everyone, please throw some salt, light a candle, whatever you need to do in order to get this man to reunite with Joe Burrow in Cincinnati. Please, Lord. Anyways, I do think that indicates that they've seen enough out of Jonathan Mingo to where he will be on the roster and part of this rotation. Obviously, the hype for Xavier Legette is founded, right? At least in so much as put up some, pretty solid college tape. They went out and spent solid draft capital to acquire him. So I think that's really going to be your rotation. The thing that makes me most bullish on Diontae Johnson, much like actually one of the exiting Miami interior linemen is now been traded, or rather signed in free agency over to Carolina. The Panthers did a really good job of being intentional in their roster moves and their player acquisition this offseason, right? If you look at this wide receiver core from last year, they were the worst in the NFL in terms of their ability to separate. Now they bring in renowned and known separator Diontae Johnson, right? So they really went out and tried to address the glaring holes in their roster by way of trade and by way of free agency. So I do think that they brought him in with the intention of using him in a very specific way. I think with a bit more time, Bryce Young's probably going to distribute the ball a little bit more evenly than he did just peppering Adam Thielen last year. But there's still a good chunk of the range of outcomes that's going to have Diontae Johnson getting 20+% of the target share in Carolina.
Week 1, they'll play the Saints, which I wouldn't necessarily write home to have like an elite secondary or anything as well. So maybe Diontae Johnson. It's a divisional game, so maybe potentially lower scoring 1:00 game as well. But yeah, I'm excited to see what happens with Diontae Johnson there. Good call out, Steve, because we haven't mentioned that fucker all offseason, honestly. We haven't said his name in months.
Yeah, I have him ranked as my wide receiver 12 for the season. So, like, it's a big year coming for Diontae Johnson. And that's just how the projections shook out. I'm calling for over 100 catches this year, and he's going to go for, his 1,000 yards. And remember, this man set the record for most catches ever in a season without scoring a touchdown. Like, that is some world-class bad luck.
Yeah, thanks. I remember I traded for him in my main league that year. That was awesome. Appreciate it.
So, yeah, get Diontae Johnson is what I'm telling all of you.
All right. Number 9 here. What is the target share distribution in Washington going to be like without Jahan Dotson? This Washington offense with Dotson leaving now has 333 vacated targets, and 4 of their top 5 target earners from last season are gone. Dotson, Curtis Samuel, Logan Thomas, Antonio Gibson. Not necessarily elite players, but at the same time, a lot of targets going out the window here. We know this is probably going to be a high-paced offense, at least that's what most are projecting it to be. Can Terry McLaurin push for 150 targets? Can Luke McCaffrey, Diami Brown, Zach Ertz, Ben Sinnott get targets? There's going to be fantasy relevant players coming from this offense that we're going to be picking up off the waiver wire. I would say as early as week 2. It's just a matter of figuring out who's it going to be. I'm curious, maybe most of all, what happens to Brian Robinson's 2.9 targets per game last season? Does Austin Eckler absorb most of that? Or can Brian Robinson still have some type of target share with a quarterback we're not really projecting to throw to the running back a whole lot in Jaden Daniels? We'll all find out, I think, in week 1, but I have a ton of question marks. And Eric, I know you really like this Cliff Kingsbury offense as well up there in Washington, but I just have no idea what the target share is going to be, especially with Jahan Dotson, former Penn State Nittany Lion, former first-round pick as well, out the door here to the division rival Eagles. What are we doing, Steelers? Bring him home. Bring him home.
Bring him home to the Lurs. Yeah, very, very legitimate question, right? In terms of how these actually play out. I think the clearest answer that we can say is we can expect a ton of Terry McLaurin work over the course of really this entire season. Maybe we see someone emerge down the stretch run a bit, but with Jahan Dotson heading out the door, it really opens up the door for Diami Brown and for Luke McCaffrey to see more work. You look at the way they deployed them over the course of the preseason, and there wasn't really anything that was particularly telling, right, in terms of differentiating one from the other. Diami Brown got a little bit more vertical work. We saw McCaffrey get a little bit more work in the short and intermediate area. So that maps a little bit more to McCaffrey kind of falling into the Curtis Samuel role and Diami Brown falling into the Jahan Dotson role. But, all of these things are really, for me, just kind of pointing the arrow back at Terry McLaurin. He is one of my favorite values over the course of draft season. And I think that he is going to be peppered with targets in a fast-paced offense.
Yeah, I've never been a guy since his rookie season. I had a ton of Terry McLaurin coming out of Ohio State, a very underrated player, and I had picked him up in a bunch of dynasty leagues that year, picked him up in a bunch of redraft, but really since then, I've kind of been out on him at cost. I think it's a great time to get in on Terry McLaurin at cost. So that is the one thing for certain. I do agree with you there. Steve, if you had to throw a dart throw at one of these other guys, whether it's Christian McCaffrey's little brother, whether it's Diami Brown, who's been there for a while, old man Zach Ertz, Ben Sinnott out of K-State. Who's the one guy you're like, hey, I should probably have this guy maybe on my roster in week 1 heading to Tampa Bay?
It's actually none of them, and it's Austin Eckler. I think Austin Eckler is going to be the guy to benefit the most from this kind of shift away from Jahan Dotson. I think the offense with Cliff Kingsbury, there's two things his offense runs this way and this way only. It's either a touchdown or it's a check down, and that is how Cliff Kingsbury runs it. So remember, he had Kenyon Drake for a little while, and Kenyon Drake was a very viable fantasy running back. Brian Robinson
Edmonds.
And so was Chase Edmonds. So Brian Robinson does not fit the mold of what Cliff Kingsbury likes to have in his running backs. He's a little bit of a thumper, which is fine. He likes
a thumper, though. James Conner.
He likes a thumper. It's a thunder and lightning kind of thing. But Austin Eckler is going to be that third down guy, which is what Austin Eckler should be. That's what he's excelled at in his career. We saw that, for a few seasons, he was a between the tackles kind of guy, but it started to wear him out. I think Eckler has more tread on the tires than people want to admit. So I think this is a Terry McLaurin, Austin Eckler passing offense. Ben Sinnott may wind up coming along as the season goes on, but it's tight end. It's a hard position to learn. It takes a while. There's a lot you have to do. I honestly don't think the number 2 wide receiver, might be a hot take for Commanders fans, isn't even on the team at the current moment. I don't believe their wide receiver 2 is on the team with the names that are going to get cut.
Who is it? Who's out there?
Well, you look at guys like Noah Brown, who just got cut.
Yeah. Honest to God. Yeah.
Like Terrence Marshall just got cut. You look at these guys, and there are probably a few more coming down the pipe that we're not going to expect to get cut. I was shocked Juju didn't wind up there. Tim Patrick available. There's guys available that we're just not seeing. I don't believe the wide receiver 2 for them is on the team.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, as a lot of people lose their jobs today, lose their homes, which obviously sucks. We're wishing the best for everyone out there. It does create more opportunity around the league as well. So a great thing to keep in mind here. Seeing some questions coming in from the chat. Albert saying, was one of the QBs to not throw an interception in their debut, Justin Herbert. I think he did throw. Did he throw a pick, Eric? Yeah.
Yeah, he did. If you remember, Tyrod Taylor started that season for the Chargers, and then the medical
Got
staff
hit in the
stabbed
lung.
him in the lung
Yeah.
so
Stabbed
that
him in
Justin
the
Herbert
lung.
could start
The
under
craziest story I've
center
ever seen.
for it was week 2 up against the Patrick Mahomes led Kansas City Chiefs,
Yeah.
where we did have an interception thrown by Justin Herbert.
Okay. Mr. Scamper's also calling that Cliff offense the horizontal raid offense. Yeah, that's a good way to put it, man. That's a good way to put it. Nino also saying, keep an eye on John Mechie. Yeah, John
Sure.
Mechie, he's been getting some looks around the league, potentially some trade discussion. Byron Pringle, Mr. Scamper saying worth a sprinkle, potentially in best ball without Dotson there as well. Yeah, Byron Pringle had a little bit of a run there. I remember I was riding that Byron Pringle train for a minute. Nino, I'm seeing your question come in. Amister, I'm seeing yours as well. We have one more burning question to get to, and then we'll get to your guys' questions in the chat. We are back into the fantasy football season, so we'll always take your questions when we can as well. I'm going to round it out with my final question for us in general. Number 10, do the Titans actually deploy Calvin Ridley like Jamar Chase? This has kind of been bugging me all fucking offseason. Like, Brian Callahan told Kevin Clark all the way back on like March 23rd that Ridley would play, quote, a very similar role to what Jamar Chase had been playing. If that's true, man, like Jamar Chase, the guy who was used all over the field last season, even when they couldn't get the offense going, they gave him a shorter target or a shorter ADOT, and he still really provided some good fantasy value. 26.3 target share, both in and out of the red zone last season. If this is true, and the Callahans are who we think they are, Eric, and Will Levis is an absolute dog shit, Ridley could be, I don't want to call him a league winner, but a guy who really helps you this season potentially. If this isn't smoke, I just can't tell if it's smoke or not. So I'm really curious to get to week 1 and figure out whether Callahan's been blowing us off or not all season.
Yeah, I think it's one of those like devil in the details kind of thing, right? Like, what exactly do you mean when you say use him like Jamar Chase, right? Like, is this an average depth of target consideration? Is this an alignment consideration? Is this a down and distance consideration? There's so many different like kind of outs that you can use to qualify that statement. But that statement aside, Calvin Ridley's been one of my favorite kind of middle to late round targets over the course of best ball season specifically, right? Like, all of the people who were drafting Calvin Ridley at like the 2-3 turn last year and then mad when he did what he did, if you just got him at this price tag, he would have had a great season for you, right? Now, granted, I do think we're going to see a bit more of a run-oriented offense, at least to start the season in Tennessee. So maybe not quite the volume that we would like to see, but I think he'll clearly be the primary pass catching option in Tennessee. And we're going to see DeAndre Hopkins, who's recovering from an injury, be a little bit more of a possession, move the chains kind of guy.
Love it. Love to hear it. Let's go ahead and get to some of these questions here from the chat. The first one was from our guy Amister. Thoughts on this team? 2 flex, 10-man PPR, 6 pick overall. He got QB at Jalen Hurts. Running backs are Bijan Robinson and Jonathan Taylor. Well done there. Wide receivers, Devontae Adams, Cup. Tight end, McBride. Flex, Godwin. And then he's got and Christian Kirk. And on the bench, he's got Jackson Smith-Njigba, Xavier Worthy, J.K. Dobbins, Chase Brown, Dowdle, Polk, Samuel. So RBRB is something I usually don't try to start out, but I have found myself doing that, especially towards the back half of drafts here. I have seen JT fall pretty far. I have also seen Jahmyr Gibbs fall further than I think he should be. How do you feel about this team, Steve? I'll be honest, I don't love Devontae being my wide receiver 1. If you had a different wide receiver 1, I think I'd be more into it. I love JSN, Worthy. I love the bench wide receivers. I'm fine with Godwin and Kirk there, but Devontae just scares me. Other than that, I really like this team.
I like the team. I actually don't think Devontae is his wide receiver 1. I would say Cooper Kupp's going to wind up being your wide receiver 1, and I still have Cooper Kupp being a wide receiver 1 this year. So he's someone who's getting such a discount right now, and I think Puka is really scaring some people away. But these two can live in harmony, and Cooper Kupp is not as old as everyone likes to pretend Cooper Kupp is. Trey McBride, great pick as your tight end. You know what? Middle rounds going running back, like in the middle of the first, like it's hard to go running back until two RB1s fall to you, right? Bijan at 6, and then JT in a 10-man league, that puts him at the 10, like somewhere around the 15th pick. Yeah, you have to take that. That's a great pick. I think this team is very well constructed. I love Chris Godwin. I'm calling a bounce back season for him. I honestly think this is a team that is, especially in PPR, if it's full PPR, there's not a hole. There's no holes on this team. Like where are you struggling? You have the QB 1 or 2, you have the RB 1 or 2 or 3, and then probably the 5th best running back in the league this year. Plus Cooper Kupp, who has this massive upside. Davante Adams, who has this massive upside. Chris Godwin, big upside. I really, really like this team.
I think my biggest issue with it, I would say, Eric, if I am going to nitpick it, I'm with Steve. I do like it quite a bit. I'm someone who, even like in a 10-man team, I think you can get away with it a little bit better. But I don't like going for those onesies positions back to back that early. Like he probably had to pay up for Hurts probably in the 3rd or 4th round, and then he probably had to pick another 4th or 5th round pick to get McBride as well. I know you're not a big onesie position. Is that your criticism, or do you have no criticism of this team?
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure that's how this one played out, right? Like I'm assuming it went Bijan and JT, then he got Devonta, and then he probably went Hurts, Kupp, McBride is probably my guess, right? So like when we talk about like using early round draft capital for these onesie positions, a lot of times that was in the context of like people drafting Travis Kelce at the 1-2 turn last year, right? Which like, yeah, if you get peak Travis Kelce is pretty cool, right? Like, but on the other side, like you're letting some serious talent slide past your team in order to make that draft pick. If you're talking about, a short league like this where you got 10 teams and you're using your 4th and your 6th pick on your tight end and your quarterback, it just kind of dilutes the risk a little bit. So I don't mind it quite as much here. Yeah, I mean, I think this team's super solid. Yes, there's upside with Adams and with Kupp. I'm right there with you, Steve. I'm very bullish on Kupp. I don't know if there's like top 3 at their position upside, which is generally what I'm looking for in these 10 or fewer team leagues. Just having a guy that can be top 3, top 5 at their position.
Right.
But he potentially has 2 guys at running back who could be top 3 at their position.
Yeah. Like I guess my point is I would rather have one guy at running back that can be a top 3 guy and one guy at wide receiver that has that outcome on their range. And to be fair to you, Adams and Kupp very much so have that on their range. It's just it's the tippy top of their range of outcomes, right? So like you need some things to break your way, but especially in redraft, like I don't really get why people are super scared off of Davante Adams. Like, no, I don't think this offense is going to be electric, right? Running backs are typically the ones that are a bit more dependent on offensive effectiveness in terms of their fantasy viability than wide receivers. And you just look at some of the stats for Davante Adams last year, largely playing in this offense and gets, albeit an incremental, an upgrade at quarterback this year. Number 2 in targets, number 2 in red zone targets, number 1 in unrealized air yards, right? They're just chucking the ball down to him deep downfield, right? Like he's getting a lot of volume. He's getting high value targets. This team should be trailing in a fair amount of games, right? Like, I don't think he's like I mentioned, I don't think he's going to finish as wide receiver 3 or anything, right? But like, I mean, I'm seeing him slip way down boards, and in a redraft context, I think it's a bit of an overreaction.
Yeah, I think I'm one of those people reacting for sure. We appreciate your question, Amister. Ben saying he thinks Mac Jones didn't throw an INT in his first game. Interesting. Maybe
we'll might be right.
Maybe we'll get a little recon on that from Kyle in the back end if he wants to let us know.
And I'll surface that tweet where I posted this last year and update it with the interception throws. I think Mac Jones might have been one of them. That's a good call.
Okay. Nino asking, which side do you prefer here? Patrick Mahomes, Kelce, and Pickens, or Hurts, Kincaid, and Aiyuk? Oh, that is fucking tough. Ooh, that is really, because I do love the Patty Kelce stack. I love having Nino, if you're still with us, man, can you let us make sure this is redraft, that we are thinking redraft here? Because that is kind of where my mindset went first. But that would kind of change things. If we're looking at redraft, how do you feel about this, Steve? I'm torn on it because I love Kincaid, and I think you're getting the better three players. I think on the Aiyuk side overall, I do probably prefer Kelsey and Patty to both Hurts and Kincaid, but Aiyuk to Pickens is just a big upgrade to me if Aiyuk's out there, granted.
I take the Hurts, Kincaid, Aiyuk side. At this point, I have all of those guys, I think, outperforming the other guys. I don't know. Let me give me 2 seconds to look, but I'm pretty sure Travis Kelce in my projection, the only one who outperforms is Travis Kelce. So Kelce a little over Kincaid this year, but I mean Jalen Hurts is a rushing touchdown machine, and Brandon Aiyuk is so much better than George Pickens. It's not even funny. So I'm going Hurts, Kincaid, Aiyuk in any format. It doesn't really matter to me. Standard, half point, full point, dynasty, survivor pool, doesn't matter. That's what I'm going with.
Eric, do you agree with that? I think I would try to pull the trigger unless this is best ball, because I think I'd want that Mahomes Kelsey stack and value that a little bit more. But man, I love Patty and Kelsey, and they were a nice stack you could kind of get even in your redrafts pretty late this year, all things said and done.
Yeah, definitely had a nice discount on their price tag this year. In this deal, which Nino has confirmed is redraft, I'm definitely taking the Hurts, Kincaid, Aiyuk side, right? This game, we can we can labor over it and try to find every little angle and things like that. But sometimes it's simple, right? We're talking about incremental differences between Mahomes and Hurts. We're talking about incremental differences between Kelsey and Kincaid. We're talking about a significant difference between George Pickens and Brandon Aiyuk. And I know that there are some people that are George Pickens stands out there, and go ahead and let your flag fly, right? Not mad at you. But the Pittsburgh Steelers are telling you they think Brandon Aiyuk is significantly better than George Pickens themselves, and he's in a much better offense, because I do believe that we see him stay in San Francisco. So anytime that you're able to, by an order of magnitude, upgrade a position, and the way that you do it is essentially, kind of coming out in a wash, slight downgrade at tight end, slight upgrade at quarterback, it's a slam dunk kind of deal for me.
Okay. Nino also saying in that trade he could get Aiyuk or Waddle. Would you still stay with Aiyuk, Eric? They're back to back in my rankings, so I could really go either way depending on the day, I think. But I think Aiyuk has the more upside as long as he's back there in 49ers camp.
Yeah, I would personally go Aiyuk, right? Hitting the broken record thing again, I'm not concerned about. His likelihood of staying in San Francisco or the way they use him. If you're a bit more risk averse, more power to you. I do think that Waddle is a nice alternative and still is a good upgrade relative to George Pickens. But I mean, I'm so bullish on Aiyuk. I've been scooping him up every opportunity I can.
Steve, where do you go here, Aiyuk or Waddle?
I go Aiyuk, but it's not by a ton. I think they're both in the 20s for me this season. So
okay, all right, awesome. Well, I appreciate your guys' insight there. We're gonna go ahead and round out the show here with a little bit of a little game we like to call a little off the top.
A little off the top, ain't talking about a fade or a crop. Steady hand, know when to stop. Just a little off the top. Whoa, easy now.
All right, a little off the top is our cut one game. We're going to ask some different betting questions, some fantasy football questions, some lifestyle and entertainment questions as well. And I've seen some new folks here, or some returning folks here in the chat, some of our in-season crowd. So if you guys aren't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel, help support us over here at IBT, and also hit that like button if you enjoy this type of content. Let us know that we aren't too big of shitheads over here, but we like being a little bit of shitheads. Kyle Scott, speaking of shitheads, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing fantastic, boys. We're having a fantastic episode. How are we doing? How is everyone else doing?
Vibes are flying. Bush lights are going down smooth out here. We kind of got that little taste of fall out here. I don't know about you guys down in Texas or up in Boston or Pittsburgh, but I got a taste of fall last week. Cool 70s, high 60s. Now it's back in like 80s. Now it is not feeling
I
great.
love the heat. Bring the heat.
Come on. The
How
fall
dare you? How dare you? Last week, we had a heat index that was 123 degrees in San Antonio, Texas.
Woo!
Now we are in the 8th season of our year, which we call pre-fall. Means I went outside and it was 78 degrees. And right now it's only 93.
Jesus.
It's damn near chilly out here.
Oh, I couldn't live that life. That's for sure, my friend.
Oh, I could.
We got doll guitar before we get to the questions here for a little off the top, Kyle. We got one here from doll guitar. Start 9, 10 team QB1. Jordan Love. His running backs are ETN and Swift. I like that. CD Puka at his wide receiver position, like that. Tight end Andrews or Njoku, like that. 3 flexes: Waddle, Montgomery, Moss. Thoughts? I mean, I talked, I already kind of shit on the program or shit on Zach Moss on this program.
Yeah.
Would never shit on this program. I like it. Like, I'm not huge in DeAndre Swift this year, but you got Montgomery on, in your flex, so I'm not too worried about it. I think you got serviceable RB2s. ETN, I think, is going at a discount. CD, like, it's not my favorite team in the world, but I think that your flex and Jalen Waddle makes me like every team a whole lot more here. Eric, your thoughts here on doll guitar?
Yeah, pretty similar vibe, right? Love the pairing of CD and Puka. Mark Andrews, I think, is primed for a nice bounce back year, assuming he can stay healthy. For a 10-team league, ETN and Swift as a 1-2 punch at running back is a little bit thin. I like ETN. At RB2 is really where I'd be trying to accumulate some depth, right? Like, Monty's a nice floor play, right? He should have his fair share of touchdowns there, but you're largely chasing touchdowns. We've talked about Moss, right? A guy that's in a split. Honestly, I don't know how many bench spots you have available to you. If you're rostering a second quarterback, a second defense, a second kicker, cut them all and go out and speculate in the running back market. A guy that, might be out there and is either an injury away or is already projected to be in a timeshare. Guy like Tajay Spears might be out on the wire in a 10-team league, right? Go out there and do some speculating in the running back market and see if you can't get a couple of lottery tickets on your bench.
Khalil Herbert. I like Khalil Herbert a little bit there in Chicago this year at that price tag as well. If you want to lock down that Bears backfield.
Lock down that Bears backfield. There's going to be 9 guys carrying balls for
easy.
Yeah, for real.
Easy on my guy Khalil out there.
Also, Roshan's the one you want.
Kyle, let's get to the questions. What do we got here for a little off the top? If you want to provide any more context about the segment as well, feel free to.
Yeah, so a little off the top is a wonderful little segment, a great game. It's so much fun. We all love it here. Where we have some options, and you got to get rid of them. You got to get rid of one. You got to cut one. That's why it's called Cut One.
Oh.
So, we're going to start off with some college football, and then we're going to get into, like, the potpourri, funnier kind of stuff.
Okay.
Potpourri.
So, we're going to cut one of the top 12, excuse me. You're going to cut one of the top 12 ranked college football teams, not named Florida State, from making the playoffs. And we're going to go by the AP poll here. And we got them going down there. Georgia, Oregon, Ohio State, Texas, Alabama, Ole Miss, Notre Dame, Penn State, Michigan, Florida State, Missouri, and Utah. Obviously, Steve, you have some thoughts. We're going to go to you first. What are you thinking?
Yeah, so first off, I'm not counting Florida State out of the playoff. Yeah, we lost week 1. But remember, the conference champion automatically goes, right? And while we may be 0-1 in the conference, Clemson has to play Georgia week 1. I'm calling that a win for Georgia, right off the bat. So where does that leave me? I'm not going to go with anyone in a double-digit number because that's boring. I think I'm going to piss off my boss and say that Penn State is going to get bounced from the top 12. There is no way that they are allowing that many Big Ten teams in there. And Penn State is going to go 9-3 as they usually do and be fine. And they'll come in at like 15 because that's where they belong. I don't believe the Big 12 is only going to send one team. I don't think they're going to do that. I don't think the NCAA will really ice out an entire conference like that. I wouldn't be shocked if Clemson and Florida State both get into the college football playoff this year, or some combination of Clemson, Florida State, Miami get into the college football playoff this year.
I like Miami. Yeah.
I think those
Miami.
three will make a play at it. I think Penn State's going to get bounced, and it's not because they're not good. They're fine. It's just they're not as good as some of these other teams are, and they're in a very stacked conference.
Yeah, it's interesting, at least this year, because we don't have to, at least, there's no divisions in the Big Ten. The Penn State team, they don't have to go through Michigan. They don't have to go through Ohio State if they want to win. I mean, they're going to have to go through them, most likely. They're probably going to face them in the championship game if they did get to that. But they don't have to run through them like they did, the gauntlet to even get to the Big Ten championship game with the division. So, yeah, me. I don't need I don't need to share my Penn State bias. I think I'm high on Penn State. I probably am every single season. They have new offensive coordinator and a new defensive coordinator as well, though. Offensive coordinator coming over from Kansas, so I'm kind of excited to see what he can do with Drew Aller. My pick here would be Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame is not going to make the college football playoffs. They're already underdogs this weekend to number 20th ranked Texas A&M. Going down to College Station, I talked about it earlier this week on the Betting Pros college football betting show as well, that College Station is no joke, guys. College Station is a place where, hey, those boys know how to get down there. And I'm scared that Notre Dame could start off here 0-1. And then if they start picking up steam later in the season, they are going to play Stanford, who I think Stanford's kind of going to be a sneaky team this year, potentially not upset Notre Dame, but maybe make them look worse than they should be. And then Georgia Tech, they go to Georgia Tech on October 19th as well. So outside of that, like, they're not playing a lot of high class teams. Steve's Florida State team in there will be later in the season, then USC, but I just don't think they'll have enough big wins to solidify themselves that, hey, they should be a team here in the top 12 of the country, especially when they're not playing for a conference championship right off the bat as well. Eric, your thoughts on Notre Dame? I do like Riley Leonard coming over here, the best quarterback I think they've had in quite some time, potentially all the way back to Brady Quinn. But I just can't get behind it, man. Get in a fucking conference. Level up here.
Yeah, if this is just you stumping against independents in college football, maybe that's
a little bit of bias,
for a different show. I do feel like we often see Notre Dame quarterbacks come in with a ton of hype, and they tend to be kind of flat, right?
Sam Hartman.
Maybe that trend continues, right? I'm not exactly sure. For me, the answer is pretty clear. I'm gonna look over at the Wolverines of Michigan.
No, don't say it.
This is a team that lost 18 players from their national title team last year, lost their head coach. Obviously, their quarterback's out the door. The aforementioned Blake Corum is out the door. 6 of their offensive linemen who saw starting snaps all out the door. And you have all kinds of penalties swirling around them, right? So this could be a situation where there are a lot of things in flux. Maybe they stumble out of the gate, and before long, they're leaning into some penalties so they can serve the time when their team is not competitive. I wouldn't be surprised at all if we see Michigan take a slide and not make the playoffs this year.
Well, you don't believe in Alex Orgy, Eric? You don't believe in Alex Orgy?
I mean, with a name like that, clearly he's down for whatever.
I believe in him. I believe in him.
He may be out of a job in the next couple of weeks.
That's what people are saying. Calm down. People were saying that about Jalen Milroe this time last year as well. All right. Well, that's a little college football talk for you today. I keep sneaking it back in the program on you guys. Kyle, what else do we have here? Potentially a potpourri question, as you alluded to.
Yeah, potpourri is the mix of things, referring to the wide variety of things we're going to be talking about. And we're going to start with frozen pizza. I think that's probably one of all of our favorite meals. I think that's true.
You got to have one in the freezer. You got to have one loaded for those days that you just can't cook. Like, You get back from a trip or some shit. You don't have the will. You don't have the strength. Those frozen zaws are there. I agree with you, Kyle.
Yeah, they always come in clutch, but the question always remains, what is the best one? Or rather, in our case, what is the worst one? Because we got to cut one of them. And we're going to go choose between Totino's, Red Baron, Tony's, and DiGiorno. Seth, you're a frozen pizza connoisseur. I remember that in college. That's one of your defining traits in college. You were a chef with those frozen pizzas.
Yeah, man. You'd get them at Aldi's for $1 or $2. You put a little extra cheese, maybe a couple extra toppings on there, maybe a little couple extra pepperonis on there, and you chef them up. And that's what you had to do back in the day. Yeah, I have since tried almost every frozen pizza brand I think is out there right now. If there isn't one that I don't know about, maybe that's a national chain, let me know. I'd like to try it. So I'm not cutting Totino's. Kind of process elimination this. I love those Little Johns. They're a little more expensive now than they should be. I know you used to be able to get them for like $1. Those little party time pizzas, I'm about that. Red Baron, the OG, that's the one in the freezer at all times. I just think it tastes the best. I can't really explain why. Crispy pepperoni, crust is great, sauce is phenomenal. Tony's, another one. As inflation continues to fuck us up a little bit, Tony's gone up in price a little bit, but back in our IUP days, Kyle, that was one that I would chef up a little bit as well. Get one for about $2.50, $2.49. Maybe throw a little extra cheese on there. Tony's is still banging. Tony's still crisp. Still cheese bakes well. I'm cutting DiGiorno, boys. I'm cutting DiGiorno. It's overpriced. It's overrated. The only time I can ever say that I really enjoyed a DiGiorno pizza is a couple years ago. We did our holiday live stream, and I was like almost blacked out. I actually did black out later that night. But I remember eating DiGiorno before I blacked out, and it didn't save me. Yeah, it didn't save me. It didn't save me. So I'm cutting DiGiorno here.
Eric, you gotta save me from that. All right, I'm gonna be just so real with y'all right now. I have tried. The only one I've tried on this is DiGiorno.
You didn't have a fucking childhood, my friend.
Bruh, I ate Market Basket frozen pizza. All right, like I ate they were like they were the rectangles. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like they're like rectangular, coming
Totino
like three.
style, sure.
Yeah, and that's what I ate, and we put a slice of Swiss cheese on it, and
Ew,
I don't
that's
know.
ghetto. That's ghetto.
Bruh, I didn't grow up with money like some of you guys to be out here fucking sampling the world of
Seth's
frozen
putting
pizza.
charcuterie on top of his
Seth's
Totinos.
oh,
What are we
yeah,
doing
shush
over
up your
here?
frozen pizza. Frozen pizza is meant to be a broke meal, and Seth's out here maybe add extra pepperoni and some bell peppers and shit like that. Seth's such a phony living the poor life, and he's out here zhuzhing up his fucking frozen pizza. Grow up.
Hey, sorry about it. Some of us worked
Man.
enough places in college. We were able to afford a little extra green pepper on my pizza.
I
So
ate the free meals that my restaurant I worked at provided me, and I was happy.
Yeah, we didn't get no free meals at Tom's because that's not how the Greek do it, Steve. That's not how the Greek do it, my friend. Eric, you got kids. You've been 20 at one point in your life. You're an adult now. What
Maybe
frozen
20
zaw?
currently.
Yeah, what frozen zaw are you cutting here, my friend? That's the question. No bullshit.
so-
no
So
fluffing around the answer.
before I get to my cut, whether it is a slice of Swiss cheese, whether it is some bell peppers, I think it is universally accepted that it is an elite choice to crack open your frozen pizza and to zhuzh that thing up, right? If it's just throwing some garlic and some Parmesan on there
Oh, yeah.
before you put it in, whatever it might be, right?
Little ranch
Pick your
after the
flavor,
fact, yeah.
different strokes, different folks. That's not my point. But just the little extra is what puts it over the top. In terms of your list, this one isn't really all that tricky for me. I'm gonna follow your lead. I'm gonna go process of elimination here. And the way that I'm going to arrive at it is a little bit different. Totino's, like you mentioned, the GOAT. The HEB, the local grocer here in San Antonio, Texas, used to let you get 5 of these things for $3 on special. So you could just
Wow.
live well off Totino's. It served a purpose, and it served it respectfully. So
Oh, yeah.
Totino's is definitely staying on the list. DiGiorno, weirdly enough, making it into the basket by process of elimination. It is the only one of these options that is of the rising crust variety. If you don't want a thin, crispy crust, You painted me into a corner. I got to select DiGiorno. Not exactly my cup of tea, but it is the one of these things that are not like the other. Sure. I now have to make a decision between Tony's and Red Baron. And this decision, while these pizzas are incredibly similar, is going to come down to the mascot itself. The Red Baron, the knowing look, the flowing scarf over his shoulder is exactly how I feel when I'm eating a slice of Red Baron. Tony's is like a knockoff of Little Caesars. Get out of here with your copyright infringement. Tony's is hitting the bricks.
What the fuck is happening on this podcast? If there was this much of a breakdown on frozen pizza.
Good call, my friend. You put it on the dot there. I feel that way when I'm eating Red Baron too. Kyle
had fucking stats. He's like the rise, right? Like it comes up and becomes a pizza. And now we're getting into the mascots. This is fucking crazy.
Going behind the scenes here. We were talking pre-show about breaking down some frozen pizza, and I was like, "Y'all clear out. I got this. This is my category."
Yeah, he definitely like delivered. I'm like, because you're like, I'll carry it, and I'm like, you be all you can be, man.
Here we are.
Kyle,
dance with the frozen pizza,
I know you also live here in the great state of Pennsylvania, what some call the greatest state if you want to slice a za. So
no one on earth says that.
Everyone fucking says it, Steve.
No one on earth says that. Stop.
What are you talking about?
Kyle, cut a frozen pizza. Cut a frozen pizza, my friend.
Well, okay. So I will go process elimination like everyone else. I will say my favorite, the one I usually go for, is the Aldi brand. And putting shit on the pizza, dude.
They put out fire.
You got it. Oh, all these pizzas are awesome. Totino's. I'm gonna be honest. I don't think I've had a Totino's pizza. I've only seen Totino's pizza rolls.
Oh.
So that's already
not exactly the best ambassador for the Totino's brand.
No, we're not getting a sponsorship from them anytime fucking soon. Thanks, Kyle.
Hey, man. Red Baron, love Red Baron. They make the French bread pizzas.
Never had one of those
as well.
Perfect for just a little small thing. Tony's reminds me of school pizza. That shit's elite. And DiGiorno, that's all right. That's a good.
It's not delivery.
It's not delivery. If you have guests, you can throw in the DiGiorno, save the Tony's for yourself. You know. So, sorry, Totino's, but I didn't know you made pizzas.
Oh, fair enough. I do.
Yeah, I thought that. I was like, is that the pizza roll company? I didn't even know they made.
They're party time
Honestly,
pizzas.
I think it's probably what they're more known for is the pizza roll. Like there's a word association between Totino's and pizza roll. And to be fair, if you didn't survive on Totino's pizza when you were back in the struggle, there's really no reason to like it now, right? It's exclusively a nostalgia vote, right?
Like it's kind of gross.
There was a point where I thought I was going to wither away and die, and I found 74 cents and got myself a Totino's pizza.
A couple questions here from the chat before we round out the segment here that I want to get to quickly. Doll Guitar Dynasty QB1 going through his team here. He's got Jalen Hurts. He's got running backs of Dave Montgomery and JT, wide receivers of Amon Ra and Puka, George Kittle, 3 flexes, Rashee Rice, Chris Olave, T. Higgins, Tank Dell. He has the 111, 1-3, and 1-9. What should he do? Wow, okay, so we got a late rookie draft here, I'm assuming here. No rookie drafts taking place. I mean,
is that the 1-1? Is that the 101 that he has?
Yeah, I believe so.
That's
yeah. So, I mean, you're taking Marv at the 1-1. Like, I don't think there's any discussion between that. I think you probably take Rome Odunze or Malik Neighbors if any of them get to 3. Would you guys agree with me on that?
Yeah, I think Malik Neighbors or Marvin Harrison at 1. Go either way.
Yep. Then take one of the other top 3 wide receivers that falls to you. And at the 1-9, I mean, that's when you can get interesting. Brian Thomas Jr. is probably going to be floating around there potentially as well. Maybe you get a Brock Bowers down there you can consider. If you want to get risky, if you want a running back, you could go with Trey Benson. You could go with Jonathan Brooks. Whoever is kind of your cut of tea there. I think, like, don't get cute here in the top of this doll guitar. Keep it wide receiver early. then you can kind of mix up that third pick, whether you want to go with one of the other lesser known wide receivers or one of the running backs there. Eric, your thoughts on this? We kind of in lockstep here.
Pretty close. Congratulations. You have yourself in a very fun position heading into one of the more loaded rookie drafts and rookie classes in recent memory. I think what I would do in this situation, for as bullish as I am on Malik Neighbors, I'm absolutely going Marvin Harrison Jr. with the 101. And then I am telling everyone and their mother that the 103 is on the block, right? Because assuming this isn't super flex, there is a clear tier break after that third pick. And that is specifically the point where you have the most leverage in trade negotiations. So I'm going to see who will give me the 104 plus, the 105 plus, who will help me address other areas in my roster in order to get into that 103, right? If no one takes you up on it and your consolation prize is Roma Dunze, beautiful, right? That is a great spot to be in.
Yeah.
Overall, I would try to address your running back situation. Getting a little bit younger at the position would be key. So that could be a Trey Benson, that could be a Jonathan Brooks with the 109, could be a player that you acquire by trading one of these draft picks. I really want to take a closer look at your tight end spot, right? If you get a young guy to replace George Kittle with, obviously you bring in someone elite like Laporta or Kincaid or someone along those lines. This is a legitimate year-over-year contending type of roster. So go out and find a way to replace Kittle, get stronger in your running back room, and draft Marvin Harrison should really be the priorities. And if you do that, you got a winner for years to come here.
And if you even wanted to fuck around, Steve, like you could probably, I know you're high on Malik Neighbors, you could probably, assuming Malik would go number 2 in this draft, you could package something with that third pick and maybe move up, because if this is your starting lineup, you probably have a little bit of bench depth that you could, or even, hey, do I have to give up a Tank Dell and the 3rd overall pick to get to 2, and then I can get something back with that 2, maybe a younger running back as well, something like that. Like I think you can get creative here because you have a lot of leverage to do it.
Yeah, I like the idea of drafting Harrison or Neighbors number 1, and then packaging the 1-3 and 1-9 and trying to go get like Breece Hall. Right, like try to go do something like that.
That's not a bad call either.
And stack that up. If you're at the 1-3 and Malik Neighbors is gone, I think with that tight end position being what it is, you have to consider Brock Bowers there as well.
I almost think you could trade back if you wanted Bowers.
You could
trade back.
You could, but if you don't get him at the 1-4, you're probably not getting him. So if the 1-4 doesn't want to move, you may be out of luck. I like the idea of using the 1-1. Your team's pretty stacked. Montgomery's kind of weak there. Kittle's pretty good. You could probably go the 1-3, 1-9, grab like a Breece Hall maybe if someone wants. Depends on the situation that owner's in if they're looking to rebuild, right? But find a team that's in a rebuild and get their best running back.
Yeah, good call out there. Creations XP saying DiGiorno on top from our last question. Hey, I think it's a new viewer to the show, so welcome. Thank you for tuning in, man.
Shout
also,
out.
Fuck you. That's terrible. That's terrible. Fuck DiGiorno.
Wow.
Yeah, sorry about it. Yep, I'm still mad.
Aggressive.
Yeah, no.
I appreciate you swinging through Creations. DiGiorno has its place. Me and
it's the
you
only one I've
versus Seth
eaten
forever.
Creation, so I enjoyed it. I like their like spinach and cheese pizza.
If I want some like specialty bullshit for sure.
It's spinach. I don't think it was like a crazy like specialty.
Kyle, what is this name? How do I pronounce this name? Any idea? ASD. I'm just call him Asd. Asd?
Call him AA.
I believe that is the name you get when you hit the buttons or the keys in the home row in close to sequential order.
Hey, this might be As's name. Have some respect, Eric. He's saying, "Hey guys, what's up?"
You just tapped random letters. Good call, Eric.
Yeah, no need to pronounce. Just tap random letters. Okay, all right, fair enough. He just had his draft on Saturday, and today he did a trade. He wants to know our opinion about it. He traded away Jamar Chase and Zamir White for Jahmyr Gibbs, Zay Flowers, and Rico Dowdle.
Yikes.
Ooh,
I like. Is it Dynasty?
I think this is no. I think it's redraft. He just has draft on Saturday, full PPR. I think I like the Chase side probably, and I like Gibbs, but I mean it's close. It's close. Like you probably
redraft. I'll go the Gibbs side on redraft.
you're getting. What do you think, Eric? You probably are getting the better value on the Gibbs side, but I hate giving up the best player in any trade.
Yeah, this is pretty clearly the Chase side for me. Part of that is I am admittedly a bit higher on Zeus White than the market, so I can't give an entirely unbiased opinion. But Jamar Chase is clearly the best player in this trade. Jahmyr Gibbs is a nice piece, but I've also got some questions about Zay Flowers' ability to replicate what he did last year. Obviously, Rico Dowdle and whether or not he has a role of significance is an open question, right? Maybe if you are navigating injury or you just need some depth, you can make a case for it, right?
He's saying his starting running backs were Zamir and Ramondre, so he did get a lot better at that position, which, I guess helps.
I think full PPR puts us over the tops. Over the top for me for Flowers. I think he's going to get a lot of catches, and it's full PPR. Gibbs is going to get a lot of receptions, so that's good.
I'd like to know the rest of his receiving room, probably, like that you could give up Chase.
Yeah, these questions are always so hard because it's so situation based. Like he said, his running backs were Zamir and Ramondre, which is not great. So yeah, you brought in Gibbs. So you have a RB1. Who's your other wide receivers now? Like if that means Zay Flowers is your wide receiver one, you kind of in trouble.
I would hope he'd have another strong.
Yeah, I mean, if he's saying that Zeus and Ramondre were his starting running backs, he probably punted the position, right? So he probably has a couple of guys.
Oh my God, it's Drake London. You fucked up. You fucked up. You fucked up.
Okay, I like this room. I'm not going to change my position on this trade, but I like your wide receiver room a lot.
No, the other wide receivers besides Drake London are fine. They're good.
So mixed reactions, I think, from the entire panel here, man. But either way, like I don't think you got hosed or anything like that. Like don't think that. Like I think this is for what you need to do, and if you're trying to find a better running back, like you did that. I think you did get the more value in this trade, but it's always tough giving up a wide receiver one like Chase there that's drafted primarily in top 7 or 8 picks of redraft. So it's a tough one. Kyle, round us out here, man. We got 2 questions left. Put one of them here.
All right, we're going to go with the movie question. We're going to go with a Tom Cruise question.
Ooh, a little TC action.
We're going to cut one of the following TC movies. All classics, all beloved. We got Top Gun. We got Jerry Maguire. We got Mission Impossible. And we got The Outsiders. That's an oldie for you youngins. That came out in the 80s. Eric, you probably saw that in the theaters, didn't you?
Yeah. I called in and purchased my ticket on a rotary phone and then used a steam-powered locomotive to go to the theater to see this. Actually, that movie in particular, The Outsiders, is the one that's hitting the cutting room floor for me because I've never seen it. So It's pretty easy for me to not have an opinion on it. Not to say that Top Gun or Mission Impossible or to a lesser extent, Jerry Maguire, are cinema at its finest, but it is the one of this list that I haven't seen, so no love lost when I let it go.
You son of a bitch throwing strays at Top Gun and Jerry Maguire and MI as well.
It's
Steve,
fine. They're fine.
Steve, you are a movie buff here. Our critically acclaimed movie buff, hopefully one day, is my hope.
We're hoping.
Yeah, what we doing here? What TC movie we cutting?
So this is. I'm gonna try not to get in trouble here because you know what? It's for me. I'm gonna keep this short, real quick. It's Top Gun.
You mother.
I cut Top Gun 10 times out of 10. Here's my deal. I don't like military movies, right? So that's just where I come from. I'm not really a big fan of them. I don't really get much out of it. And Top Gun to me is just fluff. I'm sorry.
It's fluff.
It's fluff.
The music,
and honestly, don't get me wrong. Tom Cruise himself is
beach volleyball.
Fluff. It's just fluff. Tom Cruise doesn't make good movies. And that's just the reality of it. He makes high budget movies, but he doesn't make good movies. And Top Gun for me is an easy cut here. I think Jerry Maguire is the best movie on this list.
Wow, that's a shame.
Wow, we got the dump button pulled on him.
I'm bringing him back.
Bang on. Jerry Maguire very much so was the best.
I just got around the horn muted. That's so wrong. That's so nasty. That's
I'm,
not very mindful, not very demure of
I'm,
you.
I'm sorry,
Very
man.
cutesy.
Not very cutesy. Yeah, Top Gun's the worst on this list. It in my head, it's Jerry Maguire, Outsiders, MI, and then Top Gun. The latest Mission Impossible movie was just a drag to get through. It was a mess. And it put it in the idea for me. But Top Gun to me is the easy cut of these.
Mhm.
So yeah, I'm not a huge Tom Cruise guy, but that's where I stand on these.
Kyle, you're also, a self-claimed movie buff as well. Where do you go here? Any love for TC here? I was hoping this could be kind of a TC, like,
Yeah, so
bro sesh.
shit, sorry. So I have seen these movies, unlike some people. I like all of these movies, unlike some people.
Thank you. Thanks.
Uh,
Oh,
but
looks like
Jerry
Kyle.
Maguire.
Oh, okay. You're back. You're back, Kyle.
He's back.
Ish.
Yeah, you're back. Jerry Maguire.
Where did we lose me?
Jerry Maguire.
Oh, okay. Great. Jerry Maguire. I was looking earlier before the show. I was looking through the show sheet. I noticed 3 of these movies have really good directors. Top Gun was directed by Tony Scott. Mission Impossible by Brian De Palma, and The Outsiders, Francis Ford Coppola. Jerry Maguire was directed by the guy that directed We Bought a Zoo. So,
Hey, that's
mean,
also a banger. Someone just
American cinema at its finest. We bought
Remember, was it last week that I had to yell at Seth for like 15 minutes straight about his TV rankings and how atrocious they were?
Listen, I just got literally sent to me the other day by my brother. It was like an Instagram reel or something, and it was a clip of We Bought a Zoo, and it was used as a meme. But
You can't say We Bought a Zoo is a banger. Take it back.
It's kind of a banger. It's kind of a banger. So, honest to God, I said to Katie out loud, I forgot to send. I said, we gotta watch We Bought a Zoo sometime. That's a good.
And she what left you? I mean, what happened after that?
I think she said she never saw it fully. So we're in the clear right now. I will round us out though before I do get broken up with for bullshit about Tom Cruise any longer on a podcast at 11 p.m. at night. My cut. And I like all these movies a lot. It's probably Mission Impossible, and I think they're all bangers. The Outsiders, Eric, do yourself a favor. Go watch fucking Outsiders. You're gonna have a switch
Do I
day
watch
pretty
it
soon.
before or after we bought a zoo?
After, please. No, before.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It's a little gang. Would you call it? Are they gangs, Kyle? Is that
They're like greasers, right?
Yeah, they're like greaser gangs.
I think Rob Lowe's in it. Like it's got
Charlie Sheen even potentially. Yeah. You got some bangers.
Did we all pick a different
Emilio
movie? That's kind of fun.
Yes, agreed. Absolutely. And then I would say, Top Gun can't cut it. Fuck you for that take, Steve. So yeah, the Mission Impossible.
It's just not anything. It's a nothing.
Cole saying here in the chat, hi guys, never done a draft before for football. Just wondering if you guys could be brutally honest and just give me a rating of my team and some tips as well. Hey man, that's what the YouTube channel is here for. You can check out our catalog. We got a ton of tips for you all season long. If you already did your draft, let us know in the chat here in the next couple of minutes as we're doing our plugs and outro, and we can give you some advice on that as well. But we're back here every Tuesday night, 9:30 p.m. Eastern time, so you can check back in at any time, and we'll give you brutally honest advice, even if you don't like Tom Cruise, like some of us here. So, how about
you pay me to talk about movies?
Yeah, it's true. I do. A low wage at that, I will add. Kyle, thank you for your help, man. Thanks for all your advice and good takes tonight. I appreciate you being on my side for most of it. Eric, we got Pros with Joe's wrapping up here, and then what else is hitting the scene here soon?
That is still very much so the entirety of my world. Like I mentioned, we are actively drawing winners, and we are going to start drafting some teams pretty much all the way through up till the beginning of the season. So that is the world that I'm in. If you donated, thank you. We all love you and appreciate your support. Make sure you're keeping an eye on your email because that's where your notification will come. If you want another chance to get into the mix, we will be drawing alternates from our in-season fundraiser pool, which is now live. You can find that at our website, proswithjoes.com. You get registered. It'll take you right to that link.
Yep.
That is the money that we will raise all season long and will go to our eventual champions charity. So when Seth takes this down, it'll be going to 826 National. When Steve takes it down, it'll be going to the Trevor Project. We are continuing to raise money all throughout the season. So you donate there. If we need an alternate, that is where we are going to find them.
Hell yeah. Thank you, man. Thank you for your service on that. Steve, other than this program that's super shitty that we go for 90 minutes about a bunch of bullshit, what else you got cooking here? We can't give away too much. I know you have something really cooking.
I know. We got something really cooking. You know what? I started my letterboxed, so I'm excited about that. You can go to my Twitter. I linked it there. I'm trying to get that going. Anything really movies or fantasy football. If you have questions about anything entertainment based, movies, anything like that, reach out to me on Twitter. I'm happy to talk about them. And we got something cooking here at IBT that I'm so excited about, but we can't talk about.
It's up to something season as always. Cole, here's your team for you. Bijan Robinson, James Cook, Alvin Kamara, Tyjae Spears, wide receivers, Devonta Smith, Terry McLaurin, Puka Nacua, Xavier Worthy, Curtis Samuel, Christian Kirk, tight end, Sam Laporta, QB, Dak, Jets defense. Eric, initial gut feel of this. I like it a lot. I mean, he's pretty loaded all the way around. I don't love Puka being my wide receiver one, I think is my only concern.
Good news. Puka is not your wide receiver one. Devonta Smith is, and probably Terry McLaurin. This team is super solid from top to bottom. Kind of like we were saying when we were reviewing the other 10 team rosters. Want to see a bit more elite upside, specifically at the wide receiver position, right? Clearly you went running back early, so that kind of caps the upside at the wide receiver spot. Dak is one of my favorite later round targets at quarterback, so I'm not going to begrudge you there. My guess is you probably took Laporta somewhere around the third round. That would be a point where I'd rather be adding top wide receiver talent and looking to go get Kincaid, 2 rounds later, or a Pitts 3 or 4 rounds later.
Yeah, I think I'm on with you there. My best advice to him, I think, Steve, would just be, hey, if Puka goes out and has a strong start to the season, can you package him with something else? Can I get into that Jamar Chase tier? Can I get into that Justin Jefferson tier? That's really, I think, the only thing for me here. Your thoughts, Steven?
Real quick. I would say that I think Laporta is your weak point. I don't think he's going to really have the year everyone thinks he's going to have. But other than that, I mean, I think this team is just stacked. I think he'll survive Laporta. I think he'll be just fine, honestly. I wouldn't even want to make a move. I think you have 3 running backs who could really pop off this year. I love Puka. I think he's very talented. Terry McLaurin, we talked about earlier on the program, is due for a big season. And Devonta Smith, I said last week, may well be or 2 weeks ago, may well be the best wide receiver on the Eagles. So, what the fuck do I have to complain about with this team? Add Dak to the mix. He's going to chuck the ball all over the place. I like it.
Cole saying he got Laporta in the 3rd round, and ASD saying he got Laporta 305 as well, saying we're cooked. Hey, hopefully we're wrong. And all we're fantasy football analysts. Our opinions are going to be different from one another. We're also stooges and all dumbasses at the same time. So take everything with a grain of salt, and form your own opinions based on other people we respect, and you take their takes and kind of form into your own as well. But Eric, it's only like 9 days, and we're all gonna be proved dead wrong about every damn thing we say on this show. So it doesn't even matter.
Yeah, right. Our speculation will come to a conclusion in just a few short days. And just to be clear, I think Laporta is fine, right? Like I think he's on track to have another top 5 type of finish. The criticism is more about cost, right? Like instead of spending a 3rd round pick on the guy that's being drafted as the first tight end off the board, I'd rather spend a 5th round pick on the 3rd or 4th guy, for example.
Agreed.
Right.
Agreed. I'm right there with you. If you guys are new to the channel, if you enjoyed this type of content, subscribe, come back, hang out with us again every Tuesday, 9:30 p.m. Eastern time. We'll be here. We talk fantasy football, we talk life, we talk entertainment, everything in between. Give this video a thumbs up as well if you didn't hate it. Let us know. We appreciate it all. All right, take care, and we'll see you at the official start of week 1 in just about 7 days from now. Thanks, y'all.